previous year. So that's only got 3 visible neck scars on it. Whereas this root, okay, there's your top, there's your bud for next year. The whole plant's in there. The entire plant's like a little tulip bulb coiled up in there. So that's the scar from the previous year, and the previous year, and the previous year, and the previous year, and the previous. So if you go back,
they look like little rice paddies.
And you count all of these, it's probably, yeah, it's probably 50 years old, that root there. And it's also got some fairly nice character with the ringing here.
Yeah.
But these rings really, the more defined they are here, this got nematode, the more valuable it is. See, nematode would be a defect in grade. The Chinese would take a look at that and they'd say, oh no, not good. But this one is probably, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's probably 12 years old. That's right
crazy.
There. Yeah. But they're wimply little. In New York.
Probably 35, 40 years old.
Yeah. This root sells for $1,000 a pound fresh weight. So that's...
How much is that? One piece?
Okay, this one root is probably...
5 ounces?
No, this is probably less than 2 ounces. So this is worth maybe, I don't know, $200. To the right buyer, it could be worth a lot more than that. This one's worth...
Oh shoot, I should be filming this.
It's so big.
Pretty well in a sec. It's funny because, you know, it's, yes, it is expensive, but yes, you need a lot of it.
You do.
You know?
I mean,
and
on average, 300
time.
roots per pound. So when people say, oh,
That's
you're getting
crazy.
$1,000 the neck on that.
Look at that.
It's probably 60, 70 years old. So when you're getting, you know, so, oh, it's $1,000 a pound, but it's 300 roots, so it's $3 a root. You know,
But it's like gold too. I mean, like
It takes so long to get. You know,
every root has individuality. So if you've got one that looks like a man or has a shape, a particularly appealing shape, and you get 2 bidders that both want that root, I mean, you might get 3 or 4 times the amount you would have normally gotten.
That's wild.
This was just done this Saturday. That's a lot. They like having a main body and then other bodies coming off of it. That's a family thing. So
That's a good thing.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And that's another. This grade here, this I would not take. It would not take less than $1,000 a pound for, and I probably won't more. Sometimes you notice the ringing.
And remember, you're Oriental by nature are very superstitious. And if it's the shape of a man, it's called an emperor's root. And it's worth so much.
I've never been paid a dime extra for a man root. Never. Not even a dime.
I've gotten $1,000 for a single man root.
Well, that's because I sold it for you.
No, that was the long one, so Sophie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
The
talk about that.
root
Yeah,
hair
these
like
are,
this,
These are wild.
from the neck to the end of this just kept going and going. It was 27 inches long. I'm holding it like this, and that one's in the museum.
Holy cow.
It can be very earthy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And earthy and bitter. And
Wow. It's good though.
full of energy
Yeah.
and longevity and good health. You can have that.
Thank you.
Commerce. Yep.
Really?
And that's, it's not the same as American ginseng. That's much cheaper. The world market price for that's about $5 a pound,
Wow.
as opposed to thousands of dollars a pound. So you're not going to get American ginseng in any of these energy drinks. No, this is not going to happen.
And if you did get American ginseng, it would be from cultivated ginseng,
Right.
where they use fungicide, herbicide, pesticide, and fertilizer, and
3
grow it
years
under
old.
shade cloth.
For 3 years.
Where here, this is all organic, natural, and is worth way, way more. And that's what your extract is.
And 90% of all ginseng is grown under shade in fields. In Ontario, for the most part, 7,000 acres up there. And actually, the prices for that are at an all-time high at $80 a pound. That's a
Oh, it
lot.
went up to 80?
It's $80.
Remember, it jumped
They're
to
buying
50.
it on futures now for 60 even. Buying it on
Wow.
futures. The buyers are actually signing contracts to agree to buy it at 60. That's higher than it's been. It's been as low as 12.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do the interview portion about the different types of ginseng now, or did you want to wait until you get into the woods, or did you want to do part here since you have it all laid out?
Yeah, it's probably just as well to do part of it here.
Okay, so let's do that really quick. What was the very first one? Okay, perfect. So go ahead,
Yeah.
grab whatever one was the first one that you got.
Okay, first one. So So I started taking ginseng, and I credit it with getting me through my first semester in graduate school. And at that point, I asked my major professor if I could do my master's thesis on ginseng. And he said, yeah, what the hell? And I did. And I continued to work on it and research it and study it and get involved with growing it, and that's what I've been doing the rest of my life. And I think it got me through graduate school, I really do.
That's crazy.
Interesting root. Too bad it's got no size to it and it's got nematode.
My wife dug that out back in sand.
Sand with nematodes, yeah, Melogenes incognita. That's the name of that critter.
Okay, what was the second one that you
okay,
had?
the second one was...
Was it this one? I can't remember.
It's prescribed for men. So this particular root, this is the father right here. That's the oldest part of the root. Well, the father had a son, and then he had another child. So basically this represents a family in ginseng. And the older it gets, the more pronounced that value added would be if it had a family. This poor guy only had one kid. He was way, way late. He was in his 60s or so when he had the kid. This one is a family. Again, we've got a parent here, and then we've got an offspring there, and may or may not get another baby at some point. Our folklore is just fascinating.
I found a lot of them where the father was chewed off by a critter.
Or rotted away.
Or rotted, yeah.
There are people that think that these roots are not hundreds of years old, they're thousands of years old.
Wow.
People who believe that because it will eventually die in the woods. Ginseng is amazing that it can go dormant for 20, 30, 40, 50 years and then come up again.
That's weird.
It is weird. I don't know any
American
of it.
chestnut will do
What is
that.
the third one? We
And
talked about
third
fourth, right?
Third
Yeah.
one, yeah.
American chestnut will lay dormant as a
Like that.
root for a long time.
I think that was the third one we talked about because of the ringing. Really nice shoulders on it.
I think that was it.
Yeah, because it's got the nice.
Right, 'cause we have the ring on. Okay.
The other thing, once you wash these roots, they decay. I mean, so I buy them dirty. You know, I'm paying people a lot of money for dirt. That's the way I look at it. And
I sell a lot of dirt.
I buy a lot of dirt. I hate to tell you what I pay for dirt, but I don't want them washed because now that this is washed, it has to be dried. And if it doesn't get dried right away, it's going to rot like that one I had more. I just threw it out
Mm-hmm.
because it was wet. And so it will rot in a couple of weeks after it's washed.
Or less.
But dried like this, or not even dried, but dirty like this, it'll keep for months. I mean, I can put this in the refrigerator as long as I...
And then the
Keep it in
very
Ziploc.
last one
And the last one might
was
have
the
been...
one that was very old.
Oh, the very old one. I'll show you. I'm debating whether I'm going to sell that or put that into my retirement closet.
That one ought to go in your box.
Yeah.
I turned down $10,000 for that.
That box?
Oh, easy. Yeah.
4 roots. I turned down $10,000.
So do you guys, is this your main job? No. Yes?
Forestry Solutions. I buy standing timber and sell it.
I am vice president of a very large company, and we are growing in hundreds of acres in the Catskills.
Wow.
My company is called American Ginseng Farm. It's headquartered actually in Los Angeles. I am using investment money that's coming from China. And we have about 240 acres of woodland that we're growing ginseng on. And we have a herb farm where we're growing Chinese herbs as well as echinacea. But I'm now working full-time summers for that company. So I'm back working full-time again. I've got 30 employees now in that company. I've got 18 people planting seed today.
So now you say that a lot of the exporting fees are high and going from
Yeah.
state to state, the paperwork.
Yeah.
How much does it take off the bottom line to do that?
Well, basically just, it probably adds 20% just to get out of the state onto the value of it. To get out of the country, figure it almost adds double. I mean, just about everybody who sells ginseng, there's less than a half a dozen really big buyers. And if country. It's really tight inbred market. And if you're not dealing with them, you're not getting it out of the country. The CITES paperwork is insane to fill it out. I mean, I've got a master's degree from Cornell, and I can't begin to fathom how to fill out all these forms. It really is a nightmare. So everybody ends up selling it to the same 5 or 6 guys, and she's going to get to eat one. We'll dig a wild root, and she can actually eat a wild root out there. You don't mind eating a little dirt, do you?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So this plant that we're going to dig up the root in a little while, because we are on private property and I do have permission of the landowner, which is a regulation in New York State. In order to dig wild ginseng, you have to have permission of the landowner, which I have. But this has got berries on it, which means it's a reproductive plant. Each of these leaves, these are compound leaves, they're called prongs. So this would be a 3-prong plant, and it's got 2 berries on it. And typically the berries will have 1 or 2 seeds in them, more commonly 2 seeds. And they don't taste bad, so I was going to ask Jennifer if she'd like to eat the berry, and then I'll have her save the seed, and then we're going to plant the seed nearby, because the idea is to get reproduction. Here's a little seedling that came off of this plant last year. But the seeds that are in this berry won't come up next year. It'll take another year before they come up. So ginseng's got about an 18-month dormancy period for the seed. So even though she's going to eat the berry and we're going to plant the seeds, we won't get a seedling next year, but the year after that. So here you go.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So here we go. This is berry time. Well, this one is pretty soft. I don't know if that changes. Just squirt it all over.
Tastes a little bit soapy.
It does taste like soap. I don't recommend just eating the berries. Woo!
They make terrible wine, too. Really a bitter wine, right?
But there is the 2 seeds.
2 seeds, okay. Now if you put the seeds in my hand, I'll show you how to plant them. You really don't want to plant the seeds too deep. The seed should only be planted about a ½ an inch deep. So I'm just going to scrape away a little bit of the leaf litter here. And I'm going to just make a little, maybe a ½ inch deep hole with my finger. And I'm going to plant 1 seed there. And you don't want the plants to be touching each other when they grow, so I'm going to go about 10, 12 inches away, and I'm going to plant the other seed there. Again, no deeper than a ½ an inch. Cover it up with some leaf litter, and if all goes well, 2 years from now, we'll have a little seedling plant just like that, which is a natural seedling that came off of this mother plant here. So we've got 1 more berry for you to eat.
All right, 1 more berry.
Not going to taste any better than the first one, but
they grow on you.
I don't know. I don't know about this growing on me. I don't think so.
I like them.
Different.
Yeah. But now comes the real tricky part. We're actually going to dig up this root. I have no idea how old this root is. It could be. It's got 3 prongs and it's making berries, so I'm going to guess it's at least 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
It could be older than that. It could be 10, 15 years old. We don't know. As I said, this was planted 20 years ago. I doubt if this is one of the original plantings, but it could be. So we're going to use my fingers very carefully to try to expose the top of the root. And situations like this, we will use a tool. The tool of choice is a screwdriver. But you don't want to damage the root in any way. And
pick away slowly.
It's amazing how your fingers can distinguish between tree roots and ginseng roots.
Well,
and you do that to a ginseng root, you've ruined it. And they don't grow straight down like a carrot, so I'm feeling around with my thumb to where I can actually feel the root starting to branch off, which I am feeling right now.
Wow.
And I'm teasing it with my thumb. I can see the apical bud, which is where next year's plant's going to come from. And
it's like doing surgery on the ground over here, I'm telling you. And what I learned, I actually watched a documentary earlier this weekend with Bob in it, and it was saying how you really want from the very top all the way to the bottom of the root, correct?
You want to get the fiber out, which I got most of the fiber out too. It's not a particularly old root. It had another root growing here which rotted off and died. So this particular root that's died was about 12 years old. It has now grown a new root, which is about 5 or 6 years old, and it's going to fork and branch, and it's got a little bud on there, which is where next year's plant will come out of.
Wow.
Now, a root that this small has absolutely no commercial value. this is not worth digging. And I try to encourage people that dig ginseng, if they dig up a root like this is what you do with it. You put it back in the hole. And in 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years, that root will have grown some character, it'll grow some weight. So don't dig little tiny roots like that and expect to sell them. That root on a weight basis is worth 10 cents, 25 cents for the weight. It's really not worth anything. 5 years from now, it could be worth $5.
Wow.
So when you get a little root like that, you put it back in the ground. The other thing you might want to do is, since it is ginseng season, and somebody may come out here and they might decide they're going to steal this ginseng. So what I would do in a situation like that is break off the top very close to the ground. That way there's no evidence that there was a ginseng root here. On my commercial ginseng plantings that I have home, we cut all the tops off the first week of September because we don't want poachers to come in.
Wow.
And actually, the best tasting part of ginseng is this white portion.
I hope it's better than
Well,
the berry.
you made a face at the berry, but I want you to taste that and see if you had the same
Okay.
reaction. Just the white portion
Let's
there.
see,
Take a bite of that.
Flip this around here. All right.
Now, isn't
It's
that
very
sweeter?
good.
It's like a Timothy stem or something like that you'd pick, yeah.
It's
Now
very good, almost like you said, celery. Very similar to that as well. And that's very close to what is it that you gave me earlier? Not the tonic.
The tincture.
The tincture.
Yeah.
That's right.
Extract.
Can you grab that really quick, actually?
Yeah. This is not my screwdriver. I'd have made this duller.
Easiest way with screwdriver. This definitely does taste a lot better. And extract, Woody gave me a little bit earlier to try. And how do you make this, and how much can you, what do you do with this extract if you were to go buy it?
Okay, well, you can buy something like this would actually sell for $30 or $40. Now, Woody makes an extract in which he uses the leaves, he uses the stems, and he also uses the root. So he doesn't waste anything. Woody's a very frugal man. I only use the roots for my extract or my tinctures. You want to tincture them in at least 100 proof alcohol, because anything less than that and the root will start to degenerate. But if it's 100 proof or stronger, you can use 151 rum or Everclear or something like that. The root will keep indefinitely. But the tincture, all parts of the plant, the leaves, the berries, the stem, they all contain the same active ingredients, the ginsenosides. And so what Woody's doing here is perfectly acceptable. It's a high quality tincture. I just tend to use only the roots myself. We sell the leaves for tea.
Yeah.
It makes pretty nice tea. The leaves actually make a nice tea when they're dried out, and I tend to eat the stalks too.
And then what can somebody do with the tincture?
Okay, the tincture, this is something that you'd put a couple of eyedropperfuls or one eyedropperful either in your orange juice if you can't stand the taste, because it doesn't taste great, or under your tongue. Like that.
There you go.
Not too bad. Ginseng ruins the flavor of almost everything you put it in.
Yeah.
And commonly you'll see value-added ginseng products, and they're always mixed with honey or something sweet, because it is a bitter root. Some people say it tastes like a dirty carrot, the root itself. But we're gonna find a little bit bigger root so that Jennifer can get to taste the root. So she'll have consumed the berries, she'll have tasted the stem, and we'll find you a bigger root that you can sample later on.
Sounds good. So we're going to go in search of that root right now. I hope you learned a little bit. And then coming up in just a few moments, you're also going to be learning about how you can get involved with cultivating on your own land, because there is a program that is geared just for you.
People that buy the roots really like to see the fiber. That indicates that the root was carefully dug. Indicates that you respect the plant. I had a Chinese buyer say to me one time, "You buy broken tomatoes?" And I said, "No, I don't buy broken tomatoes." He said, "Ginseng roots cost much more than tomatoes. Why do you sell me broken ginseng roots?" And he had a point. So you try to be as careful as you can, and eventually you'll end up with a pretty good job.
Wow.
An old man. I got most of the fiber out. This particular root is not that old. I'm guessing 7 or 8 years old, but it's a fairly typical specimen of what we would find with a wild simulated ginseng root. It looks wild. This would, for all practical purposes, pass as a wild root because it's starting to get the wrinkling, and absolutely a beautiful transplant too. This is something that you could put in your own garden, and I guarantee next year you have a nice plant. Judging by the size of that bud, you might even have a 4-prong instead of a 3-prong. Now the seeds are going back, going there. Catch your face.
It's actually not bad.
Does it taste like a dirty carrot?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a dirty carrot. It's got that carroty
Little
taste.
zing to it.
Yep, but I'm going to slice
Nice.
it. And you
It's
can
not
see
bad. It's different.
nice and white and smooth inside
Yeah,
there.
it's beautiful.
Now, actually, that tastes different than this. You're eating a fiber, what we call a root here, a
Okay.
fiber. And now I want to cut you a little slice here, and I want you to taste this,
Wow.
because it's going to taste very, very different, even though it's the same root.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's more like peppery.
Yes, definitely has more of a peppery taste to it. But
Oh.
this is fresh ginseng, and there are some people that prefer fresh ginseng, the Koreans in particular. When we sell ginseng, my Korean customers would much prefer to buy it fresh roots.
Really?
And they will cook with it and use it in all sorts of different preparations. If you bring fresh root to the Chinese people, they don't want anything to do with it. They much prefer the dried product, which they'll make into a tea or a beverage. It's not so much of a food as it is for the Koreans. So different cultures have different aspects. And there's actually different medicinal compounds that are found in the fresh root as opposed to the dry root, too.
Wow.
So that's your first
Incredible.
experience at eating wild
Very
ginseng.
good. All right. And then I guess one hint. If somebody here, if they feel down and out or old, where can they go to get their ginseng, or what do you recommend for people if they want to try it? What can they do?
I would suggest that they contact the DEC and get a list of the registered ginseng dealers in New York State, because the registered ginseng dealers are actually going to have the real thing. They're going to have actual wild ginseng or even cultivated ginseng from New York. If you shop online, if you just go on the internet, there's no guarantee that you're going to have any ginseng at all in it.
Oh, wow.
So I would probably try to go to a ginseng dealer that's buying ginseng, or I would go to the Finger Lakes ginseng, and they could probably put them on to some legitimate ginseng, because a number of years ago the health food industry did a survey of ginseng products. They went to stores, chain markets and chain drugstores. They found that 56% of the products that they sampled had absolutely no ginseng at all in
Oh
them.
my gosh.
So let the buyer beware. It is not cheap. We're talking, if you could buy a dollar store bottle of ginseng pills. I wouldn't eat that. Expect to pay good money. I mean, to pay $30, $40, $50 for a vial of ginseng pills is not at all unheard of. It's a very, very expensive commodity, but you get what you pay for.
There you go. All right. Thank you.